Hey everybody, welcome back to another Out of the Park 22 video. This is another series in the trade deadline takeover, which if you missed the previous episodes of this, what I do is I sim until the All-Star break as unemployed, and then at the All-Star break I come in and I take over a team and try to make some trades to get them geared up for the playoff run before the trade deadline. The rules are that I can only bring in 4 players via trade, whether that be in one trade, 4 trades, and the players that I'm trading for have to be on the trade block. I also bump up the difficulty, as you can see here, if I can get there. For game settings, I bump up the trading difficulty up 3 notches above normal, trading preferences 3 notches towards favorite prospects, and adjust the ratings weights, the AI weights to 45, 30, 20, and 5. And then I can't adjust the lineup. I can't fire any staff. I can just manage the roster as a GM, manage the 26 man and the 40 man, and that's really it. So I did a live video recently where I took over the Blue Jays. I'll go back to the standings page here. And unfortunately, we were in August. We were, myself as well as the commenters, all of you watching, were having a good time taking over the Jays. We were making a run at it, and then the game crashed. And me, being an idiot, did not turn on weekly autosave. So I figured I'd do another episode as the Jays. And we're now at the All-Star break. And before I dive into it, like I say sometimes, if you guys like these videos, there are a few things you can do to help other people find the channel, help more people find these videos. Like, subscribe, ring the notifications bell, leave a comment. If you want to support the channel other ways or get additional content, check the description box for my Patreon account, Twitter account, where you can find this channel other places. So, all right, so we're at July 13th. It's the All-Star break. I have just jumped in as Toronto Blue Jays GM. We are 48-41. We're first place. And we started this season, I believe, 0-11. And so we're a game and a half up on the Rays. We're 3.5 up on the Yanks. And we're also, if we lose that, the Rays and Yanks are in the thick of it for the second wild card. White Sox seem to be running away with the first wild card a bit. And speaking of running away, the NL West, the Dodgers are up 20 games on the Padres in July. And so let's take a look at what's going on, take a little deeper dive before we get into the trades. Expanded standings wise, man, this is a little troubling. Our run differential is minus 27. We are 6 wins above our Pythagorean expected wins of 42 and 47. So really we're expected to be 5 games below 500. And as you can see, we are overachieving that just a bit by being 7 games over 500 at 48 and 41. So really, we should be down here kind of like with the Red Sox, according to our run differential. So hopefully we don't come in and just, run differential catches up to us and makes me look like a terrible GM. Although that might be part of what goes wrong too. But it's funny, sometimes in like hockey or something, when you look at what coaches are being fired, it's always the coaches with very poor goaltending, right? And every number under the hood and everything, expected stats, all that might be telling you that the team should be good, but they're just not getting the big save. And at the coldest part of the cold streak, they fire the coach and they bring in a new coach who looks like a genius because all of a sudden the goaltending gets better a week or two in his tenure. I think the opposite might happen here. We might just run into the fact that this team is overachieving big time, 6 games, and we're like the All-Star break. I mean, if they end up 10 to 12 games above their expected wins according to the run differential, that would be really something. So hopefully that won't catch up to us, but that is definitely on my radar here. And just in terms of what is going on with the team, runs scored in the AL, we are 12th, not great. Runs allowed, we are 8th. Our bullpen is 15th in the AL, and our starters ERA is 8th in the AL. Really nothing standing out here is good. Nothing standing out here is good at all. I mean, our defense is decent. Fifth in zone rating, 4th in efficiency, 4th in where's BABIP? 4th in BABIP. So our defense looks okay. So hey, we've got that going for us. That's nice. But really everything else, we're either middle of the pack or worse. And some of that is injuries. You can see, Pearson's out. He'll be back in 3 weeks apparently, but he wasn't having a very good year. I mean, his ERA was league average, but he wasn't pitching all that well. And Ryu is out for the year. Hatch was not up at all, but Yates is out for the year. So our number one starter and our closer are both out for the year. Springer has been out since June 8th and really was about a league average hitter, WRC plus a 103. And he's out for 2 more weeks. That'll be big to get him back, though. And then Teoscar Hernandez also down. He's been out since May 26th. So both these guys have been out since like late May, early June. Teoscar also nearly identical, 102 WRC plus. Both those guys just having completely average seasons. You would think if the Jays were 48 and 41, Springer was carrying the load and Hernandez was having, another great season after he really broke out in the shortened 2020 season, but not really the case. So let's take a look here at the team in terms of what we need. So, first base, we're good with Vlad. Second base, Simeon, although somebody had mentioned, and I can't remember who, sorry, had mentioned he could also play shortstop if Bichette got hurt or if he was having a better season than Bichette in the field. But he's our second baseman. And Gurriel having a really nice season out in left field. We're good there. Bichette, obviously, is our shortstop. Tellez, nice season at DH. Jansen is doing fine at catcher. Kevin Biggio, an 82 OPS plus, a 90 WRC plus, just .9 WAR. Maybe we could go out and get a big bat at third and push Cavan to a utility role. And then the rest, it just gets ugly. This is all like injury related. Grichuk is starting in right field. He's had 259 plate appearances and a 70 WRC plus. We're going to get help in the outfield. That's the thing. With Teoscar and Springer coming back, we're going to get help. And since we can only make 4 trades, our pitching staff is a disaster. Robbie Ray, fine enough pitcher, but our number one starter. Stripling number 2. Woods Richardson, a young pitcher who is decent, but I don't know if you want him as your number 3 starter as a 20-year-old in the pennant chase. And then, the bullpen, like Romano, Matz, Merriweather. Merriweather's a good arm. Romano's fine, but this is the back end of our bullpen. These are our aces of our bullpen. There's just not much happening here. So with the 4 trades, it would be nice to bring in a bat to add a lot of depth. Because that's the thing, if you watch the Padres trade takeover, I forced good players out of the lineup or into deeper reserve roles because I brought in better players, and that's what you want. You want a really deep team. So I'd love to be able to address third base. I'd love to be able to address outfield. And then if we're all healthy, we've got a super deep team. But this pitching staff is so bad that I think we might just need to bring in 4 arms and hope Springer and Hernandez getting healthy helps the bats enough. But we'll see. Definitely need to bring in some starters here, some bullpen. We'll see what's going on just in terms of who's out there. Let's go ahead and look at that on the trade block. So let's just look at starters to start. So Scherzer is out there, but he's out for 2 weeks elbow inflammation, which isn't a big deal, but he's invoking his 10-5 rights to block any trade. So we can't trade for him. Clevenger's out for the year. He's out for 9 to 10 months. So then we've got Haney, Kluber, Nelson, Eduardo Rodriguez, and then starts to get pretty average. You got Tyler Anderson, Chris Bassett, Dylan Bundy. All these guys would be nice depth, but really I'd love to bring in maybe like a Haney and a Kluber or a Haney and an Erod, something like that. Get 2 guys who are kind of, more 2-3 type starters. There's not a number 1 starter out here we can get. Max is really the only one. Maybe Clevenger is a borderline one, but Scherzer's not coming. So we're going to go out and get 2 kind of mid-rotation arms to try to fortify the bullpen that way. Relievers-wise, Aroldis Chapman, Tyler Rogers, Iglesias, Hand. All these guys would be huge upgrades. If we just bring in these top 4 relievers, we'd be a much better team. So I will go. I'm going to work on those trades, and we're gonna let's go ahead and see what we can come up with in terms of who we can bring in. Okay, so I've looked around at some of the available trades. I'm here sorted by starting pitcher, WAR on the season, because really going out and getting a starter or a couple starters is our first priority for sure. Haney, I just can't get him. Even offering prospects, which in a 1 season, kind of sprint to the finish, I don't care about. But they've signed him, they've locked him up for 5 more years, and he is on pace for 4.6 WAR this season. I could package a bunch of prospects and Woods Richardson, who is like the 37th best prospect in baseball, but also my number 3 starter right now. But I thought, and Woods Richardson might end up in my bullpen or something like that. But with such a shallow pitching staff, no depth, what good does it do to bring in Haney, who would be an upgrade for a guy who's in my rotation currently? I thought that I should go for players who aren't going to take away from my current pitchers because I need as much help as I could get there. Scherzer obviously not happening. Erod, same thing. Woods Richardson or another roster player was a requirement for them. Lorenzen is a guy I'm looking at, and he's a two-way player. He can play in the outfield too if we have more injuries there. He's having a nice year at the bat. He's having a nice year with his arm too. He's got 1.6 WAR, 2.3 R WAR. His ERA plus is 138. His FIP minus is 93. He's having an above-average season. And then it was a bunch of dudes who have been fine, and Kluber is the best rated out of them. So I looked at Kluber as well, and let me show you kind of the trades that I've come up with here for those two as well as a couple other arms. And so let's go first to the Reds, and for Michael Lorenzen, see, we can get him for, I believe it's Royther Hernandez, I guess. So he's an A-ball pitcher who has 3 good pitches for being, well, he's 23. But, not necessarily a major league prospect with that control, but obviously doesn't really serve our purposes for this year here. So we'll go ahead out and we'll get him. And then I hopped over to San Francisco, and Tyler Rogers, I can bring him in for 2 more prospects. I believe these are prospects. Well, prospect-ish. A 25-year-old infielder who's in Double-A. And Alfaro is an 18-year-old pitcher who hasn't pitched anywhere. We signed him as a minor league free agent. And then from there, and I know I said I was looking at Kluber, but for the 4th player, I was thinking about maybe getting a bat, getting a third baseman. And I'll show you here who I was looking at. Just by all batters, WAR, and then I got to go to the batter stats. And Chris Bryant is out there. And I was thinking that would be cool. That would be a big bat to come in. But, man, it's like the same thing. I'm going to have to give up like 1 or 2 players off my Major League roster, including Woods Richardson and then another player. And no matter how I worked it, they were wanting Major League players back. So it's a no-go on Chris Bryant, even though that would be exciting. It'd be a big name to bring in. Part of me, I want to go back and try harder. But I tried every combination I could, and I couldn't get him. And so Baez, we don't need a shortstop. Solano, I looked at because he's hitting really well this year and he can play third base okay, but he was requiring roster players. And from there, it's just, Kyle Seager, could try him at third. He's having a nice season, but really I think my pitching staff just needs the help more than what these guys will bring to the table. So the last trade that I'm thinking I'm going to do is a trade with the Yankees for 2 players. And you can see I can bring in Kluber and I can bring in Chapman. So Kluber will probably be the number 1 starter. Chapman will probably be my closer. They're going to retain some salary. Alan Barrios is a minor league catcher who doesn't look like he has a major league future. And then Kyle Johnston is a minor league reliever who's 24 and maybe a borderline AAA player. So the Yankees, even though they're building a dynasty and in the hunt, I know some people, and I try to play this way sometimes in my long-term saves where does the trade make sense for the team? And this trade would not make sense for the Yankees, but I'm not worried about it in these trade deadline takeovers. So I think those will be the trades. And I might make one more run at Bryant, but I think these will be the trades. And then next we can take a look at what my manager does with the lineups once we bring in these guys. Okay, so I made the 3 trades. I brought in Lorenzen from the Reds, I brought in Rogers from the Giants, and I brought in Kluber and Chapman from the Yanks. I went and I looked at the Chris Bryant trade again. It's like, here's our pitching staff with those trades, and it's still not good enough. So if I hadn't brought in one of these pitchers, it'd be even worse. So Kluber comes in, and yes, I am concerned about his health as our number 1 starter. Beggars can't be choosers, I guess, here when you got the pitching staff that we have. And then Lorenzen will come in and be our number 3. He might also get some playing time in the outfield. And then Stripling stays our number 2. Robbie Ray is our number 4. And then we've got Roark. This rotation's an issue, and even if they're healthy. Chapman at the back end of the bullpen. Woods Richardson goes from our rotation to our bullpen, gives us some more depth there. Rogers, and then Romano, our former closer. And then Merriweather pushed from setup to long relief. So, we've got more depth in the bullpen. I'm just not convinced it's good enough. Um, Pearson will be back at some point, but with Ryu out, with Yates out, it's just tough, man. This is a team that did not have the pitching depth to withstand those injuries, but hopefully we've solidified it enough, and then this will be the same here for the hitting side for now. We'll see what happens when Springer comes back, when Teoscar Hernandez comes back. Obviously, that'll bump Davis out of the lineup, Grichuk out of the lineup, so it'll give us more depth, and hopefully our offense can kind of carry us because I don't think it's going to be our pitching that carries us. So let's see how the rest of this season goes. Well, folks, I was planning on updating next at the end of the season, but something happened. I wanted to update you guys. So 59 and 49 is where we are right now. So we're now 10 games above 500. Springer's back. Teoscar is back, but everybody else is decided to get hurt. So this could end ugly for us here. Let me just show you. So Kluber is out for 3 months, so he's basically done for the year. Aroldis Chapman is out for 5 to 6 weeks, so he'll be back if we're in the playoffs, he'll be back like mid to late September. So he'll be back for the last couple weeks. And then Vlad Guerrero is out for 4 months with a fractured ankle. And then, of course, all these other guys were already hurt. Pearson's on his way back, which we're going to need him in this rotation, now headlined by Stripling and Ray Lorenzen, Woods Richardson, and Ryan Baricki. So Rowdy Tellez comes in at first base, and Biggio goes to DH. And then Jordan, I think it's Groshans. He's a pretty good hitting prospect, so he's going to be in at third base. But, man, I mean, you lose your number one starter, your closer, and your slugging first baseman, who is your cleanup hitter. Things could get ugly here. We'll see how it ends. Well, I'd like to apologize to the city of Toronto. I'd like to apologize to patron William, really just Blue Jays fans everywhere. This didn't go as planned. I would say it went about as well as expected once Kluber and Chapman and everybody else went on the IL. But our Blue Jays that were 48 and 41 finished 79 and 83. The run differential ended up at minus 59. So 76 and 86 was our Pythagorean. And I mean, here, I'll show you the info page first. So run scored, we ended up 6. The offense, some guys got hot. Springer came back and got hot. Biggio was hot. The offense was good enough. But the pitching, just a disaster. 12th in earned run average, 11th in runs allowed, 11th in starters ERA, 14th in bullpen ERA, 14th in home runs allowed. But, I mean, look at this rotation. It's about what you'd expect. Pearson, Ray, Lorenzen, Stripling, Roark. Woods Richardson was in the pen. So, I was a little worried about the Kluber the Kluber health issues, but there weren't better deals out there for us. Limiting myself to the just guys on the trade block, not an excuse, but Kluber was one of the best guys to bring in, and I was hoping he was going to stay healthy, and he didn't. And then Chapman got hurt. We only got 10 innings out of Chapman, who we traded for on July 13th. And he was phenomenal in those 10 and a third innings. A FIP minus of 22, an ERA plus of 184. He was great. 20 strikeouts per 9, a 51.3 strikeout to walk percentage. He was dominant, but he wasn't really around until late September for us. So, and then Tyler Rogers, the other guy we brought in, was also really good. 38 and 2/3 innings, put up a 4.42 ERA, 3.86 FIP, which is an 80 FIP minus. So he's 9% above league average in ERA. He was 20% better than league average in FIP. He was really good for us too. And then Michael Lorenzen had 100 plate appearances and was really bad, a 77 WRC plus after coming off a 130 in Cincinnati. And then on the mound, he was okay. His ERA plus was 96. His FIP minus was 102. So he was right around a league average starter for us in 72 innings, which is really what really I think I expected him to be. We were just trying to add depth to the rotation with our moves. So league average starter, but he was terrible with the bat, and we were hoping he could add some oomph to our outfield bench, and he did not. And then, let me see, Kluber, how much did we even get out of him? So we got 21 and 2/3 inning out of Kluber, 145 ERA plus and 99 FIP minus. So, we got 4 starts out of him. And then we had another injury. Of course, the Vlad injury was huge, and Lourdes Gurriel, who ended up, let me go by WRC plus. Yeah, second best hitter by WRC plus. He missed, I think it was 3 to 4 weeks in August and September. Like not long after Vlad went out, he went out. So thank goodness for Rowdy Tellez, but Bo Bichette, if he could have done more with the bat, maybe that would have made a difference. But really, just the pitching staff we knew was inadequate, and went out and tried to make some improvements. And two of the four improvements, we got a total of like 32 innings out of Kluber and Chapman, who were our number one starter and closer we went out to get, and that about sums up how it went. But anyways, a little disappointing. I apologize, Toronto. I'll do better for my next city, and you deserved better than this. But yeah, that wraps it up for our Toronto Blue Jays trade deadline takeover failure.